If you're interested in what I look like in real life and want to learn more about me, then follow my Instagram page at Joe the Insomniak. I was at a lake in the woods fishing with my 4-year-old kid and wife. There was no one there except us. The lake was surrounded by a dense forest of trees, brush, and the like. We're about 50 yards from our vehicle down a hill at the bank with our poles resting in the water. The fishing line was very slow, so I decided to test my new camera. So I walk around the general area while my wife sat with our child tending the fishing poles. I walked up to a hill from the bank and through the trees to the mouth of a clearing where all of a sudden I see 4 guys approximately 20 yards away just out there in the woods. Now they're kind of weird. They look like a cross between grunge band members, Deep Woods Hillbillies. I don't know, they were dirty, having unwashed clothes looking raggedy, and they just stood there for what seemed like an eternity, looking at me. The look in one of their eyes is either desperation or malicious intent. I play it off and just focus my camera in another direction. Then I noticed that one of them had somehow managed to move closer to where I was, immediately making me feel uneasy. I mean, why in the hell were these guys out there so far in the middle of nowhere? No fishing poles, hiking gear or anything. The one that had moved closer to where I was said out of the blue, "Hey, won't you come and take our picture?" Then kind of half giggled, revealing rotten looking teeth. He had as much teeth as a jack-o'-lantern. Not to judge this guy, he just looked very sketchy. I could definitely feel his intentions were not good. I kind of smiled back nervously and just kind of nodded and started making my way back to my family and the fishing spot. As I walk away, I heard one of them in the distance shout, "Hey man, come over here. Take our picture now." And then I heard others laughing, and I noticed they're slowly making their way towards my direction. They start giggling and laughing amongst themselves in a sinister way. I can't make out much of what they're saying, but I can hear a few odd comments like, "Yeah, he's alone," and "Nah, something's over there near his car." Anyway, I finally made it down the bank and immediately told my wife to quickly start gathering our stuff and head back to the car. She could tell by the sound of my voice and demeanour that something was wrong. We both half-heartedly packed up, grabbing our kid, heading up the bank and hill to where our vehicle's at. Still, the only other people out there, right as I get towards my car, I notice that they're in the distance coming out of the woods towards us. We then throw our stuff in the back, jump in the car and start heading out. I didn't want to worry my wife, but had the realization that there was only one way we could get out there, through an old dirt road that meandered through the woods and past near where they're at. I'm afraid that we're gonna get cut off, so I floor it and know nothing's gonna stop me. As we're making our way out, I'd seen nothing to the right of my peripheral vision, yet it was just one of them in full stride swinging towards us, running. This time I noticed he had something in his right hand that looks like a tire iron or something. We lost him in the woods just about as we made it out onto the road. A while later, maybe 30 minutes or so into the ride, we made the old country concrete highway that led back to the city. At this point, we've seen another vehicle in the distance coming towards us, and it's an old beat up truck. I thought, oh god, they've caught us. But I realised that they're lumberjacks. They say, "Is everything okay?" and "Are we lost?" I said no, we know how to get back. I told them about what happened and he didn't even seem fazed. Just said we shouldn't be out there alone. I hate the fact that he didn't take this serious and said he never comes out here without his rifle and his Nam knife, and that there's weird people out here that do a lot of wrong. I said like what, and he never elaborated. I hate the fact that this ever happened to me. It changed my outlook on camping. I was hiking in the Appalachian Trail northbound in early August a few years ago, and I was a day out of Devonport Gap heading to Hot Springs, NC. I don't remember the exact shelter I was at, but I know I was somewhere north of Max Patch. That time of year, there aren't many people on the trail, and other than a couple of cars at Max Patch, I hadn't seen or spoke to another person in a full day. I decided to end my hike for the day at about 7 PM so I could eat dinner and prepare for bed before dark. Now I was also feeling a little dreary from the hike. So I ate, filmed, reloaded my water, hit the hay as it gets dark. It's about 2:30 AM. I was startled awake, but not by a noise, rather the absolute silence around me. I didn't hear the toads, crickets, owls that you'd normally expect to hear, but I'd also heard when I went to bed 6 hours earlier. I looked around, but saw nothing. Everything was perfectly still. I made the decision that I had to get out of there. I packed all my gear in about 5 minutes, threw on my headlamp, grabbed my bear bag, and noped my way up the trail at around 4 miles per hour in the pitch black until sunrise. I finished my planned 18 miles into the hot springs by 10 AM. To this day I have no idea what there was that morning. I know something was there though. I've encountered tons of predators in the woods, from black bears to coyotes, but to this day, I have never experienced anything like that before. I'm sure it was a person or a huge predator. Whatever took over that day was primitive, and I'm glad I got out of there. Now, camping in general can be freaky, not so much during day, but when it gets dark. It gets really dark. Whenever people say the Blair Witch Project wasn't scary, I always ask them if they've ever been out camping. Now, laying in your tent at night, not knowing what's 3 feet away from you, is terrifying. It's pitch black and deadly quiet. Like being alone in a creaky old house except with a 10 times multiplier. Every second or so you hear a bear or wolf, or even maybe a person that's also tenting that you don't know about. Now, probably my freakiest experience happened when I was a kid camping in Colorado. It was dark but still too early for us to be tired, so we're sitting around the fire doing normal things, eating and talking. I would say we're telling scary stories, but screw that. We're probably talking about Disney or something. Now keep in mind how dark it is out there. The light from the fire only goes so far to create what feels like a wall where all light stops. As we're sitting there, all of a sudden, my sister and I look up and see a pair of eyes staring at us. Me and my sister both looked at each other at the same time before freaking out. We're on the edge of losing our minds. Our parents calm us down, telling us not to move. We have no idea what it was or how big it was, being impossible to judge in the darkness. My mum and dad immediately got us back in the car and we sped out of there. To this day I still have no idea what the hell that thing was. What freaked me out more was my dad's reaction. He's an avid hunter and has lots of experience, and I've never seen him scared like that before. I went turkey hunting with my dad in the Shawnee National Forest several years ago. I was around 10. I took one afternoon to hike and scout hunting spots. Along the trail we saw a few blood splatters and drips. Not a big deal though, it's nature. About 1/4 of a mile up the trail, however, we come up to 3 dogs hanging from a tree, skinned and everything. We go a bit further and there's a bluff not too far up the way. Come to the bluff and we find weird symbols burned into the ground on the sides of the rock wall. Candle wax everywhere and more blood. By the time my dad, whom I've never seen scared before, looked at me, he said, "Let's go," and we took out of the camp immediately. The worst part is that we weren't able to leave that campsite at night, so we had to lay awake in the camper in case anything happened. My buddies and I were camping in the woods of Yosemite, California. We're the only ones in the area, and we know this because of the camping registry. We're quite literally the only ones in a 20-mile radius. Anyway, everything's normal and great, and our campsite was on the side of a lake. At night, we shared a small 8-man tent. It was cozy with 8 guys in a tent, but not horrible. At about 3 in the night, we're suddenly awoken by one member of our group standing up in the tent, frantically opening the door. He poked his head out and began super frantically and nervously saying, "There's someone in our camp." He kept repeating it. It sounded terrifying. Needless to say, we're horrified that someone might be in our camp, because we know we're the only ones supposed to be there alone. Everyone had been woken up and is now looking at each other with a mortified look on our faces. After about 15 seconds of saying that someone's in our camp, he lays back down like nothing's happened and slept. I've never seen anything like it in my life, and I don't know what caused it. It's almost as though he's possessed.